Hey, it's Pastor David. I'm here with my Thursday at 3 update, and it's my privilege today to have Lisa Sojourner. She is a licensed mental health therapist who is a part of our team doing ministry down at the Four Pillars Counseling and Wellness Center at the Reeves campus. Got to get that right. Four Pillars Counseling and Wellness Center, a very important name. So Lisa, welcome. We're really glad that you're here with us today.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
So Lisa is dynamic and has a dynamic ministry, and I want you to know her and know a little bit about what she does. So Lisa, tell us a little bit about your ministry, a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a mental health therapist. So that just means that I minister to people in their struggles and challenges of life. I give them space and opportunity to have a objective place where they can process what's going on for them, be it little or big. And I do that with clinical skill. And I also do spiritual integration as well. I've worked for quite a number of years in ministry. And so if clients want that, I'm able to bring in elements of spirituality into that. And we work through just different things that people are going through, either in their past, if they've had something adverse happen to them there, or maybe things that are challenging for them now, or things that they're anticipating in the future.
Yeah, that's a great description. I love how you start with safe and objective. I want to come back to that in a minute. But one of the things I really appreciate about you as I've encountered you and gotten to know a little bit about you is your faith and how you live your faith in Christ and how you integrate that. And I think that's so important in terms of how we approach our journey. We're mind, body, and soul. And so tell me a little bit about how you work with this idea of faithfulness and mental health and how you integrate those two.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times people think that those two things might be opposed to one another, but they're not opposed to one another because we're
Right.
human beings. And mental health, like we focus on the brain, we focus on what's going on there and thoughts, feelings, behaviors, emotions, all of that stuff. And all of that happens in the brain. And the brain is, and like any other part of the body, it's an organ of the body. And so our spiritual world is something that's going to be impacted by that. And so finding healing there is going to be very, very important. And actually finding healing there is going to open us up to grace more. And especially when you look at how Jesus worked in the Gospels. He went around and he healed people. He healed people of their physical ailments. And helping find healing in the brain is just like that too, because it is also an organ of the body. And so you can see when he would heal people physically, it would open them up to grace and to opening their hearts to him as well. So to me, it's all one and the same. They're not counter-opposed to one another. They actually work together because it's part of who we are as human beings.
Oh, what a great thing. You really made something click in my head. I really see working with a mental health therapist as a practice of grace. It really is a practice of grace. And that, talking about the fact that we're not just body, we're not just soul, we are all of this together. And that as I read the scriptures, God is working to redeem the physical. I mean, I think about, communion. Communion is a physical act that brings grace to us physically and spiritually. It's not, it's integrated. We're getting to a series in Revelation coming up in church, and it's about God's redeeming creation. The physical does matter. It is tied to the spiritual and the mental. And so just love the fact that you have this wealth of practice and experience of faith and how that ties into the wholeness of healing. So thank you for that. It's a practice of grace, that favor of God. So, it seems to me that there is more than ever need for guides who create this safe and objective space, who help us process and work on our own journey. And it also seems that there is still kind of a stigma around that. I still run into people that kind of say, I don't need that. I don't, it's something that I'm not sure about. I'm unfamiliar with it. It has a label to it. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts on when should I really be considering approaching a mental health therapist, the work of that, and what type of things I should know about that.
Yeah, so I would say there's never a time when there isn't a reason to go talk to a therapist. I always joke with my friends, I'm like, I don't know any good therapist who would say, sorry, that issue is too small for us to talk about. we love talking about things. Like I do know that sometimes there's people who say like, I don't want to bother a therapist with that. You're not bothering us. We love to talk for a living. We will happily talk to you about those things. It might change like the frequency of how often you would need to talk to
Sure.
a but I would say there's no issue too small to bring to therapy. Um, but in terms of like, and the other thing I would say too is knowing that therapists are not these wise sages on the hill.
Mm,
We have a mountain that we're climbing as well, and you have a mountain that you're climbing. And what I'm doing is not asking you to climb the mountain to where I am. What I'm doing is
right.
I'm on my journey and I can have perspective and see where you are. Hey, there's a rock ahead that you can.
Mm,
And I've also been trained with clinical skill to like help people navigate from where I am. It's not that I'm perfect and I know more. It's just I
right.
have a different perspective. And I've been trained to hold space for that. So I think there shouldn't be shame in it, because you don't have to go to therapy because there's something wrong with you.
Right. Right.
You go to therapy because I want to live a more full life. And this person can potentially help me do that and has perspective and objectivity to do it. I would say, when is a good time to say, okay, I might need to go talk to a
Right.
therapist? Is it having whatever you're struggling with, whatever challenges has entered into your life, is it starting to have significant impact on a couple of things? Is it having a significant impact on your relationships? Is
Yeah.
it having a significant impact on work or school? And is it having an impact on your ability to just enjoy life and to be able to be somebody who doesn't feel burdened all the time? Yeah. So is it having a negative impact on your exterior world?
Right.
And is the interior disturbance or pain so much that it's like, I don't want to feel this way all the time? Those would be the things that I'd say, yeah, that's probably a good time to talk to somebody about it.
Yeah, that's a great guide. I really think that's clear. And I think that's
Mhm.
important. I've gone to a counselor for all of my ministry. Actually, I see my therapist, my mental health therapist today, actually later on today. And
Yeah.
I find that there is always things that I can dig into.
Mhm.
And I'm always amazed at how much history has a way of showing up in the present and affecting the future. That, little conversations and processing have helped me navigate ministry and parenting and just life in
Mhm.
general. And so I love your analogy of climbing the mountain. I'm not climbing my mental health therapist mountain, I'm climbing my own
No.
mountain. And a
Yes.
good mental health therapist will not, conflate the two. I
Mhm.
think that, it's one of the things that kept me a little uneasy at the beginning years ago was like, oh, I'm gonna be forced to spill my guts or to share something I'm not comfortable with. And that's not the case. You've not um it's it's not forced, it's not, uh something that is made, it's something you choose to do as you, and I see this really kind of me time to work through my process. And
Yeah.
so thank you for that analogy. That was very helpful.
Mhm.
um you have had extensive experience working with youth. It's one of the
Yes.
unique things as we went out and we're talking to different mental health therapists that come to the Four Pillars Ministry Center. You have this unique past experience. Tell us a bit about your work with youth.
Yeah. So I worked prior to going into private practice. I worked for over 10 years in high schools, working with teens in high schools, mainly doing mental health, but I also would work in campus ministry departments.
Yeah,
But I love working with teenagers. I think, some adults can find them intimidating and scary, but honestly, once you get a teen one-on-one, they're awesome. They're easy to talk to. Together in mass, they can be a little intimidating. But I think their teens are great because even if they're doing super problematic behavior, either for themselves or for other people or any combination thereof, is they have so much neuroplasticity, meaning
yeah,
like their brain is open to change. And honestly, like they want to talk about themselves, they
yeah.
want to talk
Mhm,
about their lives, they want to like try different things. And so it's really fun working with teenagers because you can see change happen really quickly.
mhm.
Um, and honestly, they're just a lot of fun to work with. So I love working with them. I know some people find them intimidating, but I don't. I find like I love using humor when I'm working with teens, and they're really open to it. Um, but they're also open to not just like what am I doing wrong, but they're also open to like to the faith as well and to exploring
Yeah,
those ideas.
yeah.
So yeah, I love working with them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I did 7 years of youth ministry before going into pastoring and the role I'm in. And I find that they are hungry to kind of sort things out. They're really trying to work at it one way or the other. I may not always agree with the path they're trying to take to figure it out, but they are working. They're not idle. And so I
And
appreciate
they
it.
have a capacity for great depth too.
Yes,
And I
they
think
do.
that's the thing. Is I think a lot of adults underestimate them. Like,
Mhm.
oh, they won't hear about that. Or not all adults, but I think we all kind of have this like, I don't know if they're ready to think about that or to talk about that. But they are actually. They're capable of talking about really deep things and really pondering them and really wondering at them.
Yeah. So I know
Mhm.
you work with all ages, even though you've had a lot of success with youth. How does somebody get in touch with you, or how do they get connected to you if they're seeking to find a good mental health therapist?
So I know my info is on the website.
First website,
So
fumcwp.org.
yep. And my email's on there, my phone number's on there. Just call and say, hey, I'm interested in scheduling a phone consultation. I do 30-minute phone calls because the most important thing in counseling for somebody to make gains is not the number of years that a therapist has been working. It's not what degree they got. So PhD versus a master's. And it's not what theory they use. The most important thing, and research shows this over and over again, is the fit between the therapist and the
Yeah.
client.
Yeah.
The therapist and the client connect.
Right.
So I always like to do a 30-minute phone call to see, like, what is it you're struggling with?
That's great.
What's the challenge you're trying to overcome? And
Yeah.
I am a good fit for that. Are we a good fit in terms of personality? Or is there somebody else who might be better? And if that happens, then I always love to give referrals because part of why I went into this is because it is a ministry for me.
Right.
And so I want people to be ministered to well.
Yeah.
And so if I'm not the fit, then I want them to find the good fit. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
No,
yeah,
I
and
think that's great. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that's been my experience as well. I mean, otherwise you wind up wasting the time. You're not willing to share or connect, and that's your time. And so you have a guide that's there creating this space. And so
Mhm.
that's wonderful that you do that. And I recommend that people kind of think through what they're looking for in a licensed mental health therapist as well. When I look for a mental health therapist, I'm looking for someone of faith. I'm looking for someone that maybe is not living next door to me, that has some perspective. That if I want
Yeah.
to deal with families, I have somebody that's working on family parenting issues. So I think it's
Mhm.
good to think that through, and then use your process of calling and seeing if it's a good fit. And
Yeah.
so we're just thrilled, Lisa, to have you with us. Last question, just a little bit. You have four, 4 children,
Yeah.
and tell us about them and your husband.
Yeah. I have 4 kids. I'm married. I've been married to Andy, my husband Andy, who's my best friend for the last 12, almost 13 years. We've been together for 20. And we have 4 kiddos. Jimmy is 6 years old, Joseph is 4, Virginia is 2, and Elizabeth is 4 months old. We just had her in August. So yeah, we have a very busy household. Christmas
Yeah.
was beautiful though, I mean, 6, 4, and 2 years old at Christmas time. It's just magical. It's just wonderful.
So a great resource to draw on perspective on your climb up the mountain as a parent,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
know what other parents are going through and what that's like. And so
Yeah.
God bless you, a full thriving practice, large family, and all the rest. But thank you. And folks from church will look to see you in church on Sunday. God
Yeah.
bless.